Hi, reading friends. Welcome to another reading lesson with Miss Meadows. I am so excited to be reading with you, and today we are moving on to a brand new genre in our genre study module. And last week, if you remember, we talked about narrative nonfiction, which are stories that have facts but sound like real, like sound a little bit like fiction stories. But this time and this week, we are shifting gears a little bit to talk about informational text. So I'm going to start by kind of laying the foundation for you of what informational text means, and then we will get into our very quick story that we are revisiting today. So in informational text, there are several different examples of something that could be an informational text. For example, a magazine could be informational text, or a biography, which is a story about somebody's life, or a newspaper, or science texts. That means stories that explain scientific topics, maybe like space, or plants, or animals. A recipe, which means directions on how to cook something. A how-to article, which would be a little short couple paragraphs that would teach you how to do something. Or social studies texts, which would be an informational text about history. So informational text is nonfiction. It gives facts about a topic, and informational texts have a central idea and details. So a central idea, that means the main topic. Facts, so the facts could be about events or people or animals or the world. Informational texts have text and graphic features. Remember, we've been talking about text features all year. Things like that would include headings, labels, maps, or captions. So we would be looking for those headings, that big font, or labels, which is a description under a picture, or a map showing an area, or a caption. And then also text organization, we've been talking about all year too. Cause and effect, sequence, and description. That means the order that things are in and then describing words to go along with it. So informational texts are very similar to narrative nonfiction in that informational texts teach you something or giving you facts about a topic. The whole point is to inform you. But narrative nonfiction is different because it's told like a story with characters, and informational texts are not told like stories. They are just told to inform you, to teach you something. It's less of a story and more of just teaching you something. So we're going to see an example of that today in a very, very quick short story. And you might remember this. It's one of our short reads from earlier in the year, and it's called Animal Q&A. Q&A here is talking about question and answer. So it's going to give you a question and then an answer at the end. It says, imagine that you had wings. What could you do? Find out what animals can do with their bodies. So we have very specific things that we can do with our bodies. We can eat and write and read, and we can dance and run. And there are some of those things that animals can do that we can't do. And there are things that we can do that animals can't do. So we're going to read about this. This first one, we have a picture of a penguin. It says, question, what could you do with wings? And it's asking what penguins could do with wings. The answer is swim. Penguins flap to go fast. So we know that penguins can't fly, but they use their wings to swim, is how they use their bodies. Then here we have a turtle, and it says knock, knock, like it's knocking on the shell. The question says, what could you do with a shell? So what would you do with a shell if you were a turtle? The answer is hide. Turtles are safe inside. So turtles have that hard outer shell that they can go inside of, and it protects them from any potential predators. So if someone, like a predator, were to come try and eat the turtle could go whoop and suck right back into its shell and be safe and protected and not hurt. This one is an elephant right here. It says whoosh, and look at this elephant. It looks like it's taking a dip. Question is, what could you do with a trunk? What do we think elephants do with a trunk? Anybody know? The answer is snorkel. Elephants get air like this. So looking at this picture, we see the elephant is underwater, but because his trunk is above water, then it is used like a snorkel to breathe. So the elephant's underwater, but where it breathes out of is from its trunk, and so it's holding it above the water so it's able to breathe. And here we've got an animal Miss Meadows doesn't really like. This is a bat. The question says, what could you do with claws? And the answer is grab. Bats hang upside down to sleep. So it uses its claws to grab onto a tree branch and hold on so that it can sleep hanging upside down. So jumping back to our informational text chart, our anchor chart. This story wasn't really a magazine. It wasn't a biography. It didn't tell the story of someone's life. This wasn't a newspaper article. It wasn't a recipe. It didn't teach us how to cook something. It wasn't a how-to article. It didn't teach us how to do something. And it wasn't a social studies text. It didn't teach us about history, but it was a science text because it taught us about a scientific topic of what animals can do with their bodies. It gave us 4 animals, bat, elephant, turtle, and penguin, and taught us about what they can do with their bodies. So it taught us informational through about science. It was nonfiction. It was based off of real facts, and it gives those facts about a topic, which this time was animal bodies. And it had a central idea. The central idea was on animal bodies and what they can do. It gave facts about animals. They had text and graphic features. See, we had like this little part where it was like sound effects. It had this heading up here. This was a heading with the title. We also had some words that were bold. So the parts of the animal, like wings, shell, trunk, and claws, as well as the answers like grab, snorkel, hide, and swim were all bold. So our eyes go right to those because they're the answers and the body parts, which goes along with our central idea. And it also had text organization. We had describing words, as well as it split up into 4 sections. So see, this part has a blue background, this part has a cream background, this part has a blue and then cream, so it very evenly and nicely for our eyes divides up each part so we can see. So this is our perfect kickstart example of our informational text week that we're going to be learning about this week. We have 4 more awesome stories to read this week that are going to be informational texts that teach us something. So be thinking of what you learned from this story as you move on. I know today's video was pretty short. We had a pretty quick anchor chart to go over and then a pretty quick story to read. But because of that, you should have plenty of time to do your own thinking about what you learned about animal bodies. You can do a gem choice board item if you would like. This might be a great opportunity to do a diamond choice, to do that planning sheet so you could make a video. There's plenty of time to make a video today. So if you wanted to do that and make your own informational video on animal bodies based off of the animals in this story or any other animals that you know of, that would be a great option to do. But make sure you do that diamond planning sheet first because you should have plenty of time with our short video today. But otherwise, that's our story for today. I hope you have fun. I hope you learned something. And I will see you for another reading video tomorrow. Bye, friends.